The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen anything like this. Representatives from 47 different species filled the circular hall, and for the first time in 10,000 years, they all agreed on something. They needed to stop humanity. Ambassador Krieg of the Kovathi stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing at the holographic display above him. Images of Earth flickered in the air, cities burning during wars. Weapons tests that split atoms. Soldiers marching in organized formations. "Look at them," Krieg said, his voice echoing through the chamber. 200 years ago, they discovered radio waves. Now they have nuclear weapons. In another 50 years, they will have faster-than-light travel. And then what? They bring this violence to our worlds? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Threndil representative, a crystalline being named Shireth, activated her own display. It showed humans arguing, fighting, their faces twisted with emotion. "They are unstable," Shirath said. "They feel too much. Anger, hatred, jealousy. These emotions drive their decisions. They cannot be trusted to join the galactic community. They will disrupt everything we have built." Even the Ulamin, known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature, voted in favor of action. Their representative, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Wenlis, spoke sadly. "I do not want to harm them," Wenlis said. "But I fear what they might become. Their capacity for violence is unmatched. We must contain them now, before it is too late." One by one, all 47 species cast their votes. The result was unanimous. Earth would be subjugated. The Council's enforcement fleet assembled within a week. 12 different species contributed warships, massive vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. The fleet positioned itself around Earth's orbit, a wall of alien technology that blocked out the stars. The message they sent was simple and clear. "People of Earth, this is the Galactic Council. You have been deemed a threat to galactic peace and stability. You will immediately cease all space exploration programs. You will dismantle all weapons capable of mass destruction. You will accept Council observers on your planet who will monitor your development. If you refuse, we will destroy your orbital infrastructure and major population centers. You have 48 hours to comply." 2. On Earth, panic spread like wildfire. World leaders held emergency meetings. Military forces scrambled to launch defensive responses, but their weapons were useless against the alien shields. Scientists worked frantically to establish communication, to negotiate, to buy time. But in a basement conference room beneath the United Nations building in Geneva, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Dr. Sarah Chen, an anthropologist from Beijing, sat at a table with 11 other people. There was Marcus Okafor, a psychologist from Lagos; Jin Ho Park, a historian from Seoul; Amara Osei, a diplomat from Accra; and 8 others, each an expert in understanding people, cultures, and societies. They were not soldiers. They had no weapons. But they had something the Galactic Council did not expect. "They think this is about technology," Sarah said, studying the translated council message on her tablet. "They think we are dangerous because of our weapons. They are afraid of us," Marcus added. "Fear makes any people act irrationally. Even aliens, it seems." Jin-Ho pulled up historical records on the shared screen. Every empire that tried to control others through force alone eventually fell. The Roman Empire, the Mongols, the British Empire, they all learned the same lesson. "You cannot hold people down forever, but we cannot fight them," Amara said quietly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Maybe more." Sarah leaned forward. "We do not fight them with weapons. We fight them with something else. Something they will never see coming." "What?" one of the others asked. "We make them see us as people," Sarah said. "Not as a threat, not as a problem to be solved. As people with cultures, stories, dreams, and fears Just like them, we make them understand us. And in doing so, we make them question everything. The others stared at her. You want to surrender? I want to comply, Sarah said. Completely. We give them everything they ask for. We dismantle our space programs. We deactivate our weapons. We welcome their observers. And then we do something they will never expect from a conquered species. What? Amara asked. We become genuinely interested in them, Sarah said. Each species that sent ships, we learn about them. Their history, their culture, their conflicts, their dreams. We ask questions. We listen. We make them feel understood. And we share ourselves with them, not as conquerors or enemies, but as fellow thinking beings who just want to connect. Jinho smiled slowly. Cultural exchange as a weapon. They will not know what hit them. It is not a weapon, Sarah corrected. That is the point. It is genuine. We truly want to understand them. But understanding creates bonds. Bonds create loyalty. And loyalty breaks down the unity they think they have. Marcus nodded, understanding dawning on his face. They are 47 different species who just agreed on something for the first time in 10,000 years. That unity is fragile. If we can make individual species feel connected to us, the alliance fractures, Amara finished. Not through violence, through friendship. The plan took shape over the next 30 hours. Earth's governments, desperate for any option other than destruction, agreed to the approach. It seemed insane, but they had no other choice. 47 hours after the Council's ultimatum, Earth's response broadcast across all frequencies. Galactic Council, this is Earth. We surrender. We accept all your terms. We will dismantle our space programs and weapon systems. We welcome your observers. We want only peace. Please, teach us how to be part of your galactic community. We want to learn from you. Aboard the enforcement fleet, confusion reigned. They had expected defiance, resistance, perhaps a suicidal attack. Instead, humanity had simply given up. It made the Council representatives nervous, but they accepted the surrender. Within a week, Council observers began arriving on Earth. Each species sent teams to oversee the dismantling of human technology and to monitor compliance. And each team was met by humans who seemed genuinely excited to meet them. Humans who asked questions about their cultures. Humans who wanted to learn their languages. Humans who treated the occupation not as a tragedy, but as the galaxy's first cultural exchange program. The Kovathi observers were greeted with banquets prepared to match their nutritional needs. The Threndil received carefully researched questions about their crystalline biology. The Ulamen were given art galleries to visit, music to experience, poetry to read. No one on the Council realized they had already lost. The war was over before it began, and humanity had won by refusing to fight at all. 3 months into the occupation, Captain Ven of the Kovathi warship, Dominant Reach, sat in his command chamber, reading a report that made no sense. His crew was refusing orders. Not all of them, but enough to be concerning. And they were all from the lower castes. A human liaison officer named James Chen had been assigned to his ship to assist with cultural understanding and compliance coordination. Ven had barely paid attention to the human at first. James was small, weak, and came from a conquered species. He posed no threat, but James asked questions. So many questions. Captain Ven, I hope I am not being rude, but could you explain your caste system to me? I want to understand Kovathi culture better. Ven had explained, somewhat proudly, how Kovathi society was divided into 3 castes. The command caste, born to lead. The technical caste, born to build and maintain. The service caste, born to support the others. Each Kovathi knew their place from birth. It was efficient. It was orderly, fascinating, James had said. And the service caste? They chose this role? They were born to it. Ven had corrected. It is in their genetics. They are suited for their work. I see, James had said, making notes. On Earth, we used to have similar systems. We called them different things. Nobility, slavery, apartheid, but we learned something interesting about them. What? Ven had asked, despite himself. They only work if everyone believes they are natural. The moment people question whether they were truly born for a specific role, the whole system starts to collapse. Ven had dismissed the comment. But James kept talking to the crew. All of the crew, including the service-cased members, which no command-cased officer ever did. Now, 3 months later, service-cased crew members were demanding better quarters. They were asking why they could not train for technical roles. One had even asked Ven directly why being born into a caste meant you had to die in it. Ven did not know how to answer. The question had never been asked before. On the Threndil vessel, Crystal Harmony, Commander Shirath faced a different problem. Her entire crew had stopped talking to her. Their human liaison, a woman named Amara Osei, had done something unforgivable. She had compiled a complete history of the Threndil-Yulbren War, the 500-year conflict that had defined both species. But Amara's history was different. It was written from a neutral perspective, using sources from both sides and from third-party observers. And it revealed something the Threndil people had never known. The Zenith species had been manipulating both sides for centuries. They sold weapons to the Threndil. They sold weapons to the Yulbren. They provided intelligence to both sides, carefully calibrated to keep the war going but never let either side win completely. The Zenith had made enormous profits from the conflict. When Amara presented her findings to the Threndil crew, she did so quietly, almost apologetically. I thought your people should know the truth, she had said. I am sorry if this causes pain. But humans believe that truth, even painful truth, is better than comfortable lies. The crew had taken the report and forwarded it to their homeworld. Within days, the Threndil government was in chaos. Protests erupted across their planet. Demands for accountability echoed through their council chambers. And Shirath's crew blamed her for not knowing, for not questioning, for following council orders without asking why. The Ulamin observers stationed on Earth faced a completely different experience. They were artists and philosophers, sent because their peaceful nature made them ideal monitors for a subjugated species. But what they found on Earth moved them to their cores. Dr. Sarah Chen had personally escorted the Ulamin team through Earth's greatest museums, concert halls, and libraries. She showed them paintings that captured joy and sorrow in equal measure. She played them symphonies that expressed emotions the Ulamin thought only they could feel. She read them poetry about love, loss, hope, and despair. We thought we were alone, Wenlis said one evening as Sarah played them Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. We thought only Ulamin understood the depth of emotion, the beauty of artistic expression. But you, humans, you feel everything we feel, perhaps even more deeply. Every species feels, Sarah said gently. We all experience joy, pain, love, fear. The details are different, but the emotions are universal. That is what makes us all people, regardless of how many arms we have or what planet we come from. Wenlis had filed a report to the Ulamin homeworld that night. It stated that humanity possessed emotional and artistic sophistication equal to or exceeding the Ulamin themselves. It stated that the occupation was morally wrong. It stated that the Council had made a terrible mistake. Across Earth, similar scenes played out with every Council species that sent observers. Humans welcomed them, learned about them, and shared themselves in return, not as conquered subjects, but as fellow intelligent beings who genuinely wanted to connect. Every human assigned to Council observers had been carefully selected by Sarah's team. They were anthropologists, psychologists, historians, artists, teachers, people whose entire purpose was to understand and connect with others. And they were succeeding beyond anyone's expectations. In Geneva, Sarah's team met every night to share reports. The Kovathi lower castes are organizing, Marcus reported. They are using human equality philosophies as their foundation. Captain Ven is losing control of his crew. The Threndil Yulbrin revelation is spreading, Jinho added. 3 more council species have been implicated in the manipulation. The Zenith are facing economic sanctions from angry governments. The Ulamin have officially requested that the council end the occupation, Amara said. They submitted a proposal to grant Earth provisional membership instead. Sarah nodded, making notes. What about the human response? Are our people complying with all council demands? Perfectly, one of the team members confirmed. We have dismantled every space station. Every weapons system is offline. We are being completely cooperative. Good, Sarah said. That is critical. We cannot give them any excuse to escalate. We win this through connection, not confrontation. But even as she spoke, Sarah knew they were reaching a critical point. The council was beginning to realize that something was wrong. The occupation was supposed to control humanity, but instead, it was destabilizing the entire Galactic Council. Reports from the enforcement fleet indicated growing conflicts between species. Ancient grudges were surfacing. Hidden manipulations were being exposed. The unity that had allowed the Council to subjugate Earth was cracking. And at the center of it all was humanity still technically conquered, still completely disarmed, still perfectly compliant. The Council would have to make a choice soon. They could admit their approach was failing and withdraw, or they could escalate to violence against a species that had done nothing but cooperate. Sarah hoped they would choose wisely, but she prepared for the possibility that they would not, because humanity had learned something throughout their violent history. Sometimes the people who want peace have to be ready for war. Not to fight it, but to make sure their message is heard, even if violence comes. And humanity's message was simple. We are all people. We all deserve respect, dignity, and freedom. That truth did not change. No matter how many warships surrounded Earth, the emergency council session was called 6 months after the occupation began. Ambassador Krieg of the Kovathi demanded it, and for once, most species agreed with him. Something had gone terribly wrong. The occupation was meant to control humanity, Krieg said, his forearms slamming against the podium. Instead, it is destroying the council itself. My own crew refuses orders. The Threndil and Yulbrin are at each other's throats over historical revelations. The Ulamin have withdrawn from council votes. And all of it started when we put humans on our ships. Shirath of the Threndil rose, her crystalline body glowing with agitation. The humans did not cause our problems. They merely revealed them. Are you saying we should remain ignorant of the truth? The truth is a weapon, Krieg shot back. And humanity is using it against us. By teaching us history? Shirath countered. By sharing art? By asking questions? These are not weapons. They are when they tear apart 10,000 years of unity, Krieg said. Wenlis of the Ulamin spoke quietly, but everyone heard. Perhaps unity built on ignorance and fear is not worth preserving. The chamber erupted in arguments. Species that had cooperated for millennia now accused each other of manipulation, of hidden agendas, of exploitation. The Zenith sat silently, knowing their weapons profiteering had been exposed. The Threxil, who had been caught hiding mining operations in protected systems, refused to meet anyone's gaze. At the center of it all, one question burned. What do we do about humanity? On Earth, the humans knew the council was meeting. They had prepared for this moment. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Geneva Command Center, surrounded by screens showing data from every council observer still on Earth. Some had become friends. Some had become advocates for humanity. A few remained hostile, but even they were conflicted now. They will demand that we stop all cultural exchange, Marcus said. They will try to isolate their observers from us. Or they will escalate, Jinho added grimly. They might decide that complete subjugation is not enough. They might decide to eliminate the threat entirely. Sarah nodded. She had considered both possibilities. If they try to isolate us, they admit we are winning through connection. If they escalate to violence, they prove we were right about them being driven by fear. Either way, we have changed the conversation. But we might not survive to see it matter, Amara pointed out. No, Sarah agreed. We might not. But the truth will survive. And truth is more powerful than any weapon. She turned to the communications console. Send the message to all council observers. Tell them we are grateful for the time we have shared. Tell them that regardless of what happens next, we will always remember them as individuals, not just as representatives of their species, and tell them that if they wish to leave Earth before the Council decides our fate, we will not stop them. The message went out. And then, humanity waited. On the Kovathi warship, Dominant Reach, James Chen received orders to pack his belongings and return to Earth immediately. All human liaisons were being recalled. Captain Venn delivered the message personally, which surprised James. The Kovathi officer looked uncomfortable. The Council has decided that human contact is destabilizing, Venn said formally. You will leave within the hour. James nodded. I understand, Captain. Thank you for hosting me these past months. I learned a great deal about Kovathi culture. You should be proud of your people's achievements. Venn hesitated. Before you go, answer a question truthfully. Did you deliberately manipulate my crew? Did you intentionally create dissent? No. Why? Before you go, answer. James met his gaze. I asked questions. I listened to answers. I treated every member of your crew as a person, deserving of respect, regardless of their caste. If that created dissent, Captain, then perhaps the dissent was already there. I just gave it a voice. You knew what would happen, Venn said. I hoped what would happen, James corrected. I hoped that if people from different worlds took the time to actually know each other, we would find common ground. I hoped that understanding would build bridges. Was I wrong? Venn did not answer. But that night, 3 members of his service-cased crew requested asylum on Earth. Venn, against all protocol, approved their transfer. On the Threndil vessel, Crystal Harmony, Amara Osei faced a similar recall. But Commander Shirath did something unprecedented. She requested that Amara stay. Your historical analysis was accurate, Shirath said. My government confirmed it. The Zenith manipulated our war for profit. 500 years of death. And it was all orchestrated for wealth. I am sorry, Amara said quietly. Do not be. You gave us truth. That is a gift, even when it hurts. Shirath paused. The Council wants you gone because they fear truth. That tells me everything I need to know about the Council. Amara smiled sadly. What will you do? I do not know yet, Shirath admitted. But I know I cannot return to pretending the Council is always right. You humans have shown us that questioning authority is not betrayal. Sometimes, it is responsibility. The Ulaman observers refused to leave. When the Council ordered their return, Wenlis sent a formal response, stating that the Ulaman people would not participate in the continued oppression of a species that demonstrated clear emotional and intellectual sophistication. It was the first time in Council history that a member species had openly defied a unanimous decision. Back on the Council station, the emergency session continued for 3 days. Tempers flared. Accusations flew. The unity that had seemed so solid 6 months ago was crumbling. Finally, Ambassador Krieg made a proposal. We gave humanity a chance at peaceful subjugation. They used it to undermine us. There is only one option remaining: we escalate. We show them that resistance, even passive resistance, has consequences. What are you suggesting? Another representative asked. We issue new demands, Krieg said. They will surrender all literature, all art, all cultural materials. These are the tools they use to contaminate our people. We take them away. And if they refuse? Wendless asked. Then we demonstrate that the Council's authority cannot be questioned, Krieg said coldly. We destroy one of their cities, just one. As a lesson. The chamber fell silent. This was a line that had never been crossed. The Council enforced peace, sometimes through force, but they had never committed genocide. I will not vote for this, Wendless said immediately. Nor will I, Sharath added. One by one, species began declaring their positions. The Council, that had been unanimous 6 months ago, was now split almost evenly. And in that split, humanity found their opportunity. Sarah Chen watched the Council's internal debates through leaked transmissions that sympathetic observers had shared. She saw the vote tallies. She saw the threats and the bargains. They are going to force a vote, she told her team. And it will be close. Some species will vote to destroy us as a warning to others. What do we do? Marcus asked. Sarah took a breath. We show them something they have never seen before. We show them what happens when you give people freedom instead of taking it away. She turned to the communications console. Open a broadcast to every Council ship, every Council station, every Council homeworld. Bypass the official channels. Use every frequency we have. That will be seen as an act of war, Jinho warned. No, Sarah said. It will be seen as an act of sharing. We are going to give the galaxy exactly what the Council wants to take away. We are going to share everything. Within the hour, Earth began broadcasting. Every song ever written, every story ever told, every piece of art ever created, every philosophical text, every scientific discovery, every cultural tradition, from every human society throughout history, it flooded the galactic networks. It reached every planet, every ship, every station, and it came with a simple message. This is Earth. This is who we are. We share this freely with all species, because we believe that understanding each other makes us stronger, not weaker. We do not fear sharing our culture. We invite you to share yours with us. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The sheer volume of human creativity, of human thought, of human emotional expression, overwhelmed the networks. And everywhere the broadcasts reached, people stopped to listen, to watch, to read. The Council's vote was postponed as representatives hurried to consult their homeworlds, where populations were suddenly discovering humanity for themselves. The broadcasts changed everything. On Kovath Prime, members of the service caste gathered in underground networks to listen to human music and philosophy. They heard songs about workers rising up, about dignity belonging to everyone, about breaking chains. Within 2 weeks, peaceful protests swept across the planet. The service caste demanded reform. They demanded choice. They demanded to be treated as people, not as genetic destiny. The Kovathi government called for military intervention, but many soldiers refused orders. They were service caste too, and they had heard the same broadcasts. Some command caste members, shocked by what their society looked like from the outside, joined the protests. The Kovathi homeworld teetered on the edge of revolution. On Threndel Prime and Yulbren, something even more remarkable happened. Citizens from both species, having heard Earth's broadcasts about ending conflicts and seeking understanding, began reaching out to each other, first through cautious messages, then through video calls, then through demands that their governments open diplomatic channels. 500 years of war. And it took humans broadcasting their own history of conflicts and reconciliation to make both species question whether their enmity was worth maintaining. The Zenith, whose manipulation had fueled the war, found their economy collapsing as both species canceled all contracts and imposed sanctions. The Zenith Council representative fled the station in the middle of the night, fearing arrest. The Ulamin homeworld declared Earth to be cultural kindred spirits and began teaching human music and art in their schools. 3 other species followed suit. 7 more were considering it. The Galactic Council was falling apart. Ambassador Krieg watched his political power evaporate in real time. The unity he had built, the unity that had allowed them to subjugate Earth, was gone. Shattered by something as simple as humans sharing their culture freely, he called a meeting with the remaining hardline council members. The Threxel, the Baelorn, the Kissith, and a handful of others who still believed the council's authority must be maintained at any cost. "We have lost control of the narrative," Krieg admitted. "Half the galaxy is now sympathetic to humanity. Our own populations are in rebellion because of human ideas. If we do not act now, the council will collapse entirely." "What do you propose?" the Threxel representative asked. "We destroy Earth," Krieg said flatly. "Completely. We burn every city, scorch every continent. We make them an example of what happens when a species defies the council. It will be brutal. It will be horrible. But it will restore order." "Ah, and the species that will oppose this?" the Kissith asked. "We force the vote," Krieg said. "We invoke the emergency protocols. In times of galactic crisis, a simple majority is sufficient for military action. We have enough votes. Barely. This will cause civil war," the Baelorn representative said quietly. "It will cause a brief conflict followed by a return to stability," Krieg corrected. "Some species will be angry. Some will even fight. But once Earth is gone, once the source of the disruption is eliminated, things will return to normal." The others nodded slowly. They had no choice. Admitting defeat to a primitive species was unthinkable. The vote was called for the next day. The measure: authorize complete military neutralization of Earth as a threat to galactic stability. On Earth, Sarah Chen received warning from sympathetic council observers less than an hour after the meeting ended. "They are going to destroy us," Marcus said, reading the intercepted transmissions. "Complete destruction. No occupation. No subjugation. Extinction." The command center fell silent. They had known this was possible, but facing it as reality was different. "How many species will vote for it?" Jinho asked. 24 in favor, Amara said, reviewing the intelligence. 23 against or abstaining. The hardliners have a majority. Sarah sat down heavily. "Then we failed." No," a voice said from the doorway. They turned to see James Chen, who had just returned from the Kovathi ship. "No, we did not fail. Look at what is happening out there. The Kovathi are demanding equality. The Threndil and Yolbrin are talking peace. The Ulamin are teaching our art. We changed the galaxy. The fact that some species want to kill us for it does not mean we failed. It means we die," Marcus said. "Maybe," James acknowledged. "But even if we do, the change we started will not die with us. You cannot unhear a song. You cannot unlearn a truth. We gave the galaxy something they can never take back, the idea that things could be different." Sarah looked at her team. These people had worked for 6 months to build bridges across the stars. They had succeeded beyond imagination. And now, they might die for it. "Send one more message," she said finally. "To every species. To every person in the galaxy. Let them know what the Council is planning. Let them decide if this is the kind of galaxy they want to live in." The message went out in clear language, translated into every known galactic tongue. "People of the galaxy, this is Earth. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council will vote to destroy our world completely. Not to occupy us, not to subjugate us, to eliminate us entirely. We want you to know that we do not hate them for this. We understand they are afraid. Fear makes people do terrible things. We have done terrible things in our own history because of fear. But we learned something important. Fear-based decisions are almost always wrong. Courage means acting with kindness, even when you are afraid. We hope the galaxy will find that courage. But if not, we want you to know that meeting you, learning about your cultures, sharing our own, it was worth it. We would rather die having connected with you than live in isolation. Thank you for listening to our music. Thank you for reading our stories. Thank you for seeing us as people. We will always remember you the same way. The message spread across the galaxy within hours. And people responded. On Kovath Prime, the protests intensified. Demonstrators surrounded government buildings, demanding their representatives vote against Earth's destruction. On Threndil Prime and Yulbrin, joint demonstrations filled public squares. Citizens declared that if their governments supported genocide, they would no longer support their governments. On the Ulamin homeworld, the entire population went on strike. They refused to work, refused to function, until their government promised to protect Earth. 23 species that had been neutral or opposed suddenly found their populations demanding action, not because of government policy, but because individual citizens had heard human music, read human stories, and decided that people who could create such beauty did not deserve death. Captain Ven of the Kovathi received orders to prepare his vessel for the Earth strike force. He read the orders, then looked at his crew. Half of them were service-caste members who had been inspired by human ideas of equality. Several were openly weeping at the thought of burning a world. Ven made a decision that would end his career. He sent a message to his government. I refuse. Court-martial me if you wish, but I will not fire on Earth. Across the enforcement fleet, similar scenes played out. Some captains followed orders, but many did not. And some went further. They positioned their ships between Earth and the approaching strike force. Commander Shirath moved the Crystal Harmony into Earth's orbit and broadcast a message to the strike force. You will have to destroy us first. The Ulamin sent every vessel they had to defend Earth. They were not warships. The Ulamin had no weapons. But they flew to Earth anyway, willing to die to protect the species they had come to know and admire. When the Council strike force, led by Krieg's own flagship, arrived at Earth, they found themselves facing not just human defenses, which were still minimal, but a coalition of 23 Council species who refused to let Earth die. The galaxy stood on the edge of civil war. Krieg opened a channel to the defenders. Stand down. You are protecting a species that threatens galactic stability. Move aside, or be destroyed with them. Captain Ven responded. No. Earth threatened nothing but our complacency. They showed us truths we did not want to see. If that makes them dangerous, then every thinking being is dangerous. I will not murder people for teaching me to question. You are committing treason, Krieg said. Then we are all traitors, Shirath's voice added. And proud to be. Krieg looked at his tactical display. He had 30 ships. The defenders had over 60. More were arriving every hour as news of the standoff spread. He could attack. The battle would be devastating. Millions would die. The Council would tear itself apart. Or he could withdraw. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Krieg of the Kovathi questioned whether he was right. And in that moment of doubt, humanity had already won. On one side, Ambassador Krieg's strike force of 30 warships, authorized by Council law to destroy Earth. On the other side, 63 vessels from 23 different species, violating direct orders to protect a world they had been sent to subjugate. No shots were fired. Both sides simply waited, weapons armed, shields raised, while the galaxy watched. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays with exhausted eyes. She had not slept in 70 hours. None of her team had. More ships are arriving, Marcus reported. The Pelthrin sent 5 cruisers to join the defenders. The Asari sent 3. Any joining Krieg? Sarah asked. 2 Threxel destroyers, Jinho confirmed. But they are being followed by protest ships from their own civilian population. Unarmed vessels flying directly between the destroyers and Earth. Sarah shook her head in wonder. They are willing to die to protect us. People we have never met. Species whose worlds we have never seen. That is what connection does, Amara said quietly. Once you see someone as a person, letting them die becomes impossible. On Krieg's flagship, the ambassador faced a similar realization. His tactical officer had just informed him that half of his own crew had filed formal objections to the mission. They would follow orders if given, but they wanted it on record that they believed the attack was morally wrong. Even among the hardliners, doubt was spreading. Krieg opened a private channel to Earth. He was surprised when Dr. Sarah Chen herself answered. Ambassador Krieg, Sarah said, her face appearing on his screen. I am honored that you would speak with me directly. Do not be honored, Krieg said harshly. I am considering whether to kill your entire species. I know, Sarah said. And I understand why. We disrupted everything you built. We questioned systems that worked for thousands of years. We made people uncomfortable with truths they had not wanted to face. You weaponized culture, Krieg accused. No, Sarah corrected gently. We shared culture. That is different. A weapon is meant to harm. Sharing is meant to connect. If connection harmed your systems, perhaps those systems were already fragile. Krieg's forearms tensed. You are saying the Council deserved to fall. I am saying that any system built on ignorance and fear will eventually fall, Sarah said. Not because of outside attack, but because truth is more powerful than control. You could destroy Earth today. You might even restore temporary order. But the questions we raised will not die with us. The songs we shared will still exist. The ideas we spread will still grow. You cannot kill an idea, Ambassador. You can only prove that you fear it. I do not fear human ideas, Krieg said. Then why are you here? Sarah asked simply. Krieg had no answer. Sarah leaned forward. Ambassador, let me tell you what humans learned from our own bloody history. We fought countless wars. We oppressed each other in terrible ways. We built empires on suffering, and every single time, those empires fell. Not because they were defeated militarily, but because the people under them eventually refused to cooperate. You cannot hold down a population that simply will not be held down. You were being held down quite effectively until you started your cultural campaign, Krieg pointed out. Were we? Sarah asked. Ambassador, we surrendered completely. We gave you everything you demanded. We disarmed ourselves entirely. We were the most compliant, conquered species in galactic history. And yet, here we are, with half the galaxy defending us. What does that tell you? And I mine. We're gonna send her. That you are dangerous, Krieg said. Or that we are right, Sarah countered. Ambassador, you stand at a choice point. You can destroy Earth and prove that the Council maintains power through fear and violence. Or you can stand down and prove that the Council can change, can grow, can admit when it was wrong. One choice ends with temporary victory and permanent suspicion. The other choice ends with transformation. Transformation into what? Krieg demanded. Into something better, Sarah said. A galaxy where species join voluntarily, because they want to, not because they fear conquest. A galaxy where different cultures make us richer, not more fearful. That is naive, Krieg said. Maybe, Sarah admitted. But Ambassador, look behind you. Look at the species defending us. They are not naive. They are soldiers, commanders, leaders, and they have decided that some things are worth fighting for, worth dying for. We are asking you to decide the same thing. Is the old Council worth killing for? Krieg closed the channel without responding. For 2 more days, the standoff continued. The galaxy held its breath. Then, on the morning of the 3rd day, Ambassador Krieg sent a message to the entire enforcement fleet. All vessels, stand down, return to Council Station immediately. The strike operation is cancelled. The relief that swept across Earth was overwhelming. People poured into streets, crying, laughing, celebrating survival. But Sarah Chen knew the real work was just beginning. Within a week, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. But this time, it was different. This time, species that had never questioned council authority before came with demands. The Ulamin proposed dissolving the council and reforming it as a voluntary assembly where membership was offered, not forced. The Threndil and Yolbrin jointly proposed new rules requiring transparency in all council decisions and forbidding secret manipulation of member species. Captain Ven, representing a coalition of officers who had refused orders, proposed that individual rights and cultural freedoms be protected for all species. Even some of the hardliners, shaken by how close they had come to genocide, supported reforms. The debate lasted for weeks. Some species withdrew from the council entirely. Others threatened to do so if their demands were not met. The monolithic structure that had governed the galaxy for 10,000 years was breaking apart. And from Earth, humanity watched and waited. Finally, a new structure emerged. The Galactic Assembly, built on principles of voluntary membership, transparent governance, and protected individual rights. Member species would maintain their sovereignty. Cultural exchange would be encouraged, not feared, and decisions would require not just majority votes, but demonstrated support from member populations. It was messy. It was complicated. It was vulnerable to endless debate and disagreement. It was democracy, spreading across the stars. The Assembly's first official act was to extend an invitation to Earth not as a subjugated species, but as an equal member. Sarah Chen stood before the Assembly to accept the invitation. She looked at the representatives from 47 species, many of whom had voted to destroy her world just months ago. On behalf of humanity, we accept this invitation with gratitude and humility, Sarah said. We do not pretend to have all the answers. We have made terrible mistakes in our own history. We have hurt each other and ourselves countless times. But we have learned something important. We are better together than apart. Not because we are all the same, but because we are all different. She paused, looking at each representative. When you chose Earth's subjugation, you never expected Earth's response. You expected weapons, resistance, defiance. Instead, we offered friendship, understanding, connection. Not because we are especially wise or especially good, but because that is what we needed too. We needed to know we were not alone in the universe. We needed to know that others felt joy and pain like we do. We needed to believe that different species could find common ground. Well, you gave us that, Sarah continued. Even when you came as conquerors, you showed us the galaxy's diversity. You showed us that the universe is full of thinking, feeling beings who struggle with the same questions we do. You gave us hope, and we want to give the same thing back to you. She smiled. Humanity's first proposal to this assembly is simple. We propose a massive cultural exchange program. Every species that wishes to participate can share their art, their music, their stories, their philosophies. We will create databases accessible to all. We will establish exchange programs where individuals can live among other species to learn their ways. We will celebrate our differences while recognizing our common hopes. Some of you will think this is dangerous, Sarah acknowledged. You will fear that your cultures will be diluted or lost. But we believe the opposite is true. Cultures grow stronger when they are shared, not when they are hidden. Understanding creates respect, and respect creates lasting peace. The Assembly voted. It was not unanimous. Nothing in the new system required unanimity. But 63% voted in favor. The Galactic Cultural Exchange Initiative began within a month. Within a year, over 30 species were participating fully. Kovathi students studied on Ulamin worlds. Threndil and Yolbrin exchanged artists and philosophers. Human music played on planets hundreds of light-years from Earth. Conflicts still happened. Disagreements arose. Some species remained suspicious of others. But now, there were channels for discussion, for negotiation, for understanding. 5 years after the occupation began, Captain Ven retired from military service and became an ambassador to Earth. He worked with former service caste members who had immigrated to Earth, helping them build new lives with the dignity they had been denied on Kovath. Commander Shirath led a joint Threndil-Yulbrin committee, investigating historical manipulation and preventing future conflicts. She visited Earth twice a year, always making time to attend human symphony performances. Wenlis of the Ulamin established the first interspecies art institute, headquartered on Earth. It taught students from 20 different worlds, fostering a generation of artists who drew from multiple cultural traditions. And in a small office in Geneva, Dr. Sarah Chen continued her work, now as Earth's representative to the Assembly's Cultural Exchange Committee. James Chen, Marcus Okafor, Jin-Ho Park, and Amara Osei worked alongside her, building bridges, one conversation at a time. One evening, as Sarah reviewed proposals for new exchange programs, Marcus stopped by her office. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had fought back?" he asked. "If we had tried to resist militarily?" Sarah considered the question. "We would have lost. And then we would have been either destroyed or truly subjugated. Fighting force with force would have proven we were exactly what they feared, violent and dangerous. Instead," Marcus prompted, "instead, we showed them what we actually are," Sarah said. "Curious, emotional, creative, flawed, hopeful beings who want to connect with others. We showed them that strength is not just about weapons or threats. Sometimes, the greatest strength is the willingness to be vulnerable, to share yourself, to risk rejection, in pursuit of understanding." She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere up there, ships from dozens of worlds traveled between planets, carrying students, artists, diplomats, and simple travelers. The galaxy was talking to itself for the first time in its history. "They chose our subjugation," Sarah said quietly. "But we chose connection. And in the end, connection proved stronger than control." Marcus nodded. "We changed the galaxy." "No," Sarah corrected with a smile. "We reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. That fear divides, but understanding unites. That power can be used to control, or it can be used to protect. That being different is not a threat, it is an opportunity." She turned back to her work. There were proposals to review, programs to design, bridges to build, because the work was never finished. Understanding required constant effort, continuous communication, persistent willingness to see others as people. But humanity had learned that lesson well. They had learned it through their own failures, their own conflicts, their own long journey toward recognizing each other's humanity. And now, they were teaching that lesson to the stars, not through force, not through demands, but through the simple act of sharing themselves, of listening to others, of building relationships one conversation at a time. When all species chose Earth's subjugation, they never expected Earth's response. They expected war. They got friendship. They expected resistance. They got understanding. They expected danger. They got hope. And in receiving those things, the galaxy transformed itself not because humanity forced change, but because humanity offered an alternative, a better way, a more connected future. The stars were full of voices now, singing songs from 1,000 different worlds, and Earth's voice sang harmony among them, celebrating not dominance but diversity, not conquest but connection. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. And it was a gift that would echo through the ages.